Welcome to the Film Realist Podcast, the film and TV podcast from a complete nobody that's hopefully for somebody. This is, I want to say episode 54. Every episode mean to keep track of what episode it is, but if this is your first episode, then that doesn't really matter. This is a review of Mask of the Phantasm. I have talked about my love of Batman the Animated Series frequently. It works out that it is the 30th anniversary, well, not officially. I guess it would be Christmas of this year, but I don't know why Warner Brothers did it when they did it, but they released it in September. I did a TikTok about this. No, I didn't get a version with the mini comic, but I do have mine from 1993 still. So, I guess I win. I didn't get a special one, although it would have been cool to get a reprint. You're hearing that laughter, and I haven't announced this. Typically, I do. I am very lucky to be joined by half of the Bat-Wagon. I'm gonna
Which half?
front or back. It's up to you, Brian. Brian Manili is joining me to talk about Mask of the Phantasm, and I mentioned this just before we started. To my, I mean, I don't think you've mentioned this. I've listened to every episode of that. If you aren't listening to this and you are a fan of the DC animated universe, Jump on the Bat-Wagon is the podcast from the Watchtower database where James, the historian of the DCAU, is taking Brian through the entire thing from air date order. And
Oh,
so
yes.
you have watched all of Batman the Animated Series
Yeah.
and like 6 or 7 of Superman, something like that.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds about right.
And so that has, of course, included, because its air date did include Mask of the Phantasm. Is this the first time you've rewatched any of the DCAU since you've started?
I mean, like Batman. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
this is the first thing that I've gone back through in the Batman series that I've seen, and
Interesting.
it was, oh man, it was surprisingly nostalgic. Like
Really?
I wasn't expecting to be immediately so like, oh man, I missed this. And so I was texting James, the main host, I would say, of Jump on the Batwagon, and just like kind of commiserating and being like, oh man, I miss Batman. He's like, but you haven't seen the best of Superman yet. This is the best of Batman. I thought, okay. I'll be patient.
Yes, and so you're avoiding spoilers for any of the future of the DCAU, which is,
Yes.
I commend you, because DC fans in general never shut up about their favorite versions of any of the things. And so it's I mean, one of the running jokes on the podcast was Batman's origin story, and what I
Yes.
find really cool about this, we were talking about this before we started, was that for so many fans, when all of BTAS was getting released, and then including Mask of the Phantasm, it was for a certain generation of fans their first exposure to most of these characters. Obviously,
Hmm.
characters like Mr. Freeze got substantial rebrandings with the Emmy-winning Heart of Ice episode and
Yeah.
whatnot. But then with Mask of the Phantasm, a up until that point, I mean, Keaton's Batman has the weird guy who just looks like the Joker but isn't. I mean, well, spoilers, I guess, for Michael Keaton's Batman 89. But like, it's supposed to be a young Jack Nicholson, but it's like, could not be a different. He looks more like a young Willem Dafoe, if anything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
right, and like that's the origin story. It's the death of the parents, which then became a meme, and everyone is sick of seeing the pearls fall. But
Right.
ironically, we don't get that in Mask of the Phantasm. This movie's 30 years old. Typically,
No.
I would have a spoiler free section, but this movie's 30 years old. If you haven't watched Mask of the Phantasm yet, I don't know where it's available for you. I own this movie on DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K, so I'm not a Blockbuster, so I'm not lending mine out. It's in places. Is it on HBO Max? I don't even know.
It's on HBO Max in the States, yeah.
So there you go. If you are using a VPN to watch HBO Max outside of the United States, you can watch it there. But so obviously the running joke of Batman's origin story, and we get bits of that here. We don't get the actual death of the Waynes, which I'm curious if that was a censor thing.
I don't know because from what I remember and James saying, like my first watch through and being explained some of the more intricate behind the scenes things with the movie, this was the first time they were ever really like uncensored. The show was specifically like no blood, you can't show people really getting injured. And this has got, blood and injuries and dead people and
And
everything.
sex,
So,
that's one of my notes.
oh
It
yeah,
says
yeah. The
it says
cutaway to the
Batman
ocean.
definitively has sex.
Yeah,
I
I'd say by like daytime TV standards, yeah,
yeah.
for sure he
Well, and
does.
I was thinking about this because there was a meme years ago about something Batman wouldn't do. This is family friendly, so if you want to Google that, as an, I know James mentioned it to you, about something Batman may or may not do, if he is a gracious. Anyways, um, but thinking about like the adult nature of the animated series, and I've watched this movie countless times. Everyone's talked about on Bat-Wagon what VHSs they had growing up,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and I'm sure there's going to be more references to that because I binged all of 90 episodes, as we were talking before, in the span of a month. And so I don't think my recollection of the episodes has ever been as fresh as it is like right now, which was particularly fun for me. I have some notes that I kind of want to go back and forth on over
Yeah.
with. And one thing I do want to dispute, and this is going to be all over the place, so bear with me, Brian,
Sure. I
is
mean, I'm all for the chaos. Like, let's just
perfect.
roll into it.
Awesome. And 5 stars on iTunes, Batwagon. That was in my notes. Chaos.
Yeah.
Is that is that in the 8 pages, and I did re-listen to the episode because I wanted to see if there were things I disputed on IMDb, just out of
Mhm.
curiosity. And I have a clip. There'll be a clip. Roll it on the socials, which is not that it gives away that Andrea is the Phantasm,
Uh-huh.
but I'm 99% sure in rewatching this, and I clip them together for my own watching. Bruce uses his like leg trip technique to have sleeves appear onto Andrea,
Yeah.
which is great. It's one of my favorite
Yes.
animation edits of all time. You know what? I'm not going to say they're sleeves. She's just that flushed and ensorcelled by Bruce Wayne, who very rarely, and I have this in my notes, is always jacked and never wears shirts. We get it,
Yeah.
Bruce. You're as
Yeah,
fit
I know.
as an Olympian.
To be fair though, I mean, if that was my physique, I'd probably walk around shirtless all day
A
too.
1000%. It's
Yeah.
incredible. But so when he trips her, he does,
Yeah.
if it's not the same move, then it's just animated flipped, because I watched it in slow motion 3 or 4 times last night when I was watching it. And
Oh
the
my
only
god.
explanation that I can have based on what we know Andrea's martial arts training is, which is, I
Mhm.
should have written down who trained her, but someone's self defense class. She steps out before he does it. And the only
Oh,
explanation I have
interesting.
for that is he's done it to her before. And because she knows Bruce is Batman.
Right.
And so she would know this is one of the moves he has, which is why it wouldn't work.
That's interesting. So your theory is that that he knew it was her due to her reaction to his movements.
No, I don't think
Did
it
I get
has
that right?
anything to do with her identity. I just think it's because at that point he doesn't know. But for
Mm.
me, it's not, I don't even think the audience is supposed to be aware of it. I just think it's a really good piece of continuity that if you've watched it again, it's like, oh, why didn't that move work on Andrea? Well, because she's seen it before. Like she's
Okay, I get
clearly
what you're
not
saying.
the better martial artist, right? Because he ultimately does take her down, and then Alfred dips for the 2 times. He's like, oh, right, right.
Retract this beverage. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find that woman that I eventually got turned into a statue with those very minty looking cookies in Eternal Youth Spa or
Eternal
whatever it
youth.
is.
Yeah.
Eternal Youth. Perchance to dream. No, that's a different episode. Now they're all mushed in my head. Um Now, Brian, you are one
Yes.
of the Yoppy dudes.
I am.
One of two of the Yoppy dudes. And
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed this, but as I was watching the movie, and my notes are all out of order, so we see that they go to the Gotham World's Fair, right? That's the Gotham
Yes.
of the future with all the robots and
Mhm.
um Joker's machine wife and whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I had never noticed this before. And I think this is, I mean, I'm usually reviewing movies in theaters. And so I don't
Okay.
take notes. And it's just kind of absorb everything you can, talk about what you want
Yeah.
to talk about. And for this,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's a 30-year-old movie. Maybe I'll find something that hasn't been talked about. And I think I may have, which
Okay.
is so we see the Gotham World's Fair sign quite a bit. Okay. When
Mhm.
we see the skeezy cough guy, whatever the hell his name is, which one's he?
Saul?
Chucky Saul? Yeah.
No, wait. No, Salvador.
Salvatore. Yes, Salvatore
Salvatore
Valestro
Valestra.
Luiser. Yes,
That's the
yes.
one, my
Okay.
bad.
When he visits the Joker, most of the letters for Gotham World's Fair are down.
Go
And what
ham.
is left is Go Ham Wofair. And if that's not a funny way of just saying Go Ham Warfare, I'm saying it is because of what happens there later.
Oh. Okay, you know what? I focused so much on the go ham because it was softballed in, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is amazing. I love this."
Yeah.
I didn't really think about the whole like warfare thing, but considering later on in the episode movie, um, Joker's what 20 miles of explosives,
Bombs. Yeah.
yeah, around the
So I
joint. Like that's warfare for sure.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's the only reason that I could think of was like, why is this together like this? I don't know. Like, what would
Mm.
that? It's not warfare. It'd be like warfare. Warfare. It has to be. But I don't know.
I
I've
mean,
never
I think
heard.
it's a good a theory as anything I've ever heard.
Yeah, and okay, so I have a sound clip that I'm gonna play, and this because we're back again. This is gonna be all over the place because this is kind of the way that I made my notes down for this movie. Typically, this is I would say more well constructed, but whatever, it's fun.
Hey,
Um,
this is great.
we talked about the uncensored nature of that, and I found it really interesting listening to. So the 4K for this has a 30-minute tribute to Kevin Conroy, and
Oh,
so one thing I
wow.
wanted to mention to you, we've been corresponding for the last couple weeks.
Mhm.
And I did mention this to James. And so being somebody who grew up with all of the DCAU and my daughter is now watching Batman the animated series, so I'm very fortunate that
Well
for
done.
her the voice of Batman is Kevin Conroy. And there'd been quite a substantial amount of iconography, yeah, not even iconic, but characters just of pop culture in general that had passed away from the early 90s, me being a 90s kid.
Mhm.
Um, more just after Kevin Conroy, there was the passing of Jason David Frank, who was Tommy the Green Power Ranger. I'm a huge
Mm.
Power Rangers fan. And when I was listening through all of the episodes and finally getting to the episode when you both of you addressed the passing of Kevin Conroy,
Yeah.
it was I found myself shocked. Not, I wouldn't even say shocking, but I think I was unprepared for how emotional I was listening to James and you go over all of the messages from the phenomenal listener base that Jump on the Bat-Wagon has.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I messaged James and I'll mention it to you that I'm really thankful that that was in the episode because I found it to be really cathartic and I don't think I had even really processed that that was the case. Like I've shown Melody, who's ironically been on the podcast a couple times, um, some Batman, but never really processing that. Like, I mean, I have a theory as to one thing Kevin might be that is has yet to be released, and we can talk about it later. But in terms of there not being any more, like, there's always been a jail reunion trending, and I think I'd realized that that wasn't going to happen, but it was like
Mhm.
a just I had finally accepted like that this was the case, and it sounds some may think it sounds funny, but when somebody is such a significant part of like, I would even go as far as saying identity, that
Mhm.
that was really interesting. And so watching the "I Am the Night" Kevin Conroy um, tribute was super easy, and I didn't get emotional at all. Um, it was rough. It's hard to
Yeah.
watch through, and I'm not shocked that they didn't get um oh my gosh, Luke Scott, Mark Hamill. Like
Mark
there were
Hamill? Yeah.
there it was mostly the production crew who were on it, and so regardless, it was a really well put together tribute, and it even mentioned the comic that Kevin had written about becoming Batman and hiding his sexuality in Hollywood in the 80s. And so having that kind of all
Right.
together, and I finally was able to pick up, I should have brought it over, but my hardcover of that comic book, which was great.
Awesome.
And so getting through all of that, one thing I wanted to ask, because I don't know if you and James addressed this, because I'm not even sure if it's on HBO Max. One of the things for the 4K, because I guess I should bring up that if people are interested, is that it's the theatrical aspect ratio, which the Blu-rays did not have.
Oh,
The
really?
Blu-ray has the 4:3 and it has something else, and then so I'm curious, when you watched it with James the first time, did you watch it in the widescreen or the 4:3?
Let's see. I was watching it on the Blu-rays, and I think it was.
Because I know you mentioned cropping at one point, so I have a feeling it was probably the widescreen.
I think it must have been.
Yeah, because
Um.
watching the 4K, I wish it gave me the 4:3 option,
Wait. Why
because
is
if
that?
well, just based on like you both of you talked about it, and it is the one of the biggest problems with the production for this film, and it had nothing to do with the people involved, but was
Hmm.
this was originally conceived as a direct to home video, and then
Right.
late into the process it was at Warner Brothers went, this looks really great, let's make it widescreen and not give you a marketing budget whatsoever, and you'll bomb on December or on Christmas Day 1993. But you can clearly tell when stuff's been cropped to fit that
Mm.
widescreen, and
Yeah.
particularly it's all the Joker stuff. Anytime you just get his teeth, I'd much rather give me the whole 4:3. And when I watched the Blu-ray when I was listening for your coverage of it on Batwagon, I watched the 4:3 version because
Uh-huh.
post Snyder cut, if there's a version that shows me the whole image, I'd much rather get the whole image than something
Yeah.
that's been cropped in that doesn't necessarily fit, even focus wise. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to me that the 4K, even though they've said they've done all this restoration, doesn't include the 4:3.
Mm.
I don't know if it's changed at all on the digital. Another thing about buying home video in Canada is more often than not now, we don't get digital codes with our home media anymore, which
Oh,
is,
interesting.
it depends on what it is. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like my Superman the Animated Series Blu-ray didn't come with the digital, but if you bought it in the States, it did. I don't know why they do that. But
So they've got some marketing reason for it for sure. But yeah,
it used to
it's
be
really
just
interesting when you get. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, when you just seeing that same thing like on this watch through, there was definitely times where like, your resolution is halved. You
Mhm.
zoomed in on this and it didn't have that resolution to begin with. And it's sad. And I think more often than not, the better option is just to stick with the surprise, surprise, stick with the original artist's viewpoint. If they did it in
Mhm.
4:3, maybe just leave it 4:3.
Well, it's certainly fun. Well, never mind. That's a spoiler. Can't say that. I caught myself. I caught myself. I'm looking. I have like too many things that are going to spur thoughts and ideas. Um, Back to having rewatched the whole thing, and we talked about uncensored. Is I don't know if you remember, but Mark Hamill's Joker gets kicked in the nuts a lot.
Hmm.
And in Harley and Ivy, it is hidden from you. And I have a sound clip. I hope you can hear it. The only way we know that he gets kicked in the nuts is his reaction, which is some weird Joker. Ah! Tried to play this through and it didn't work, but we hear him very squeakily say, some weird. So he squeaks saying "get him" with his very high pitched voice. But in Mask of the Phantasm, Andrea's just, because it's, I guess, theatrical, she can just knee him right in the groin.
Oh yeah, and we get the shot from kind of below groin level with her knee positioning. You can just see the whole thing like ramping up into I know what's gonna happen here.
Hmm.
Poor
Yeah,
fella.
and then he reaches for the meat, which is whatever metaphor you want to make it to be. I wanted to ask you because this has
Yes.
the hilarious reveal of the Joker being one of the members of the gang.
Mhm.
And because you were so obsessed with Batman's origin story, and we don't have a Joker origin story outside of the smile
Uh-huh.
being added to that, like trying to even think of what I can talk about. So well, no, I found that really interesting because in the comics version, like that does not fit with anything we know about the Joker prior to
Mm.
him becoming the Joker. If you've
Mhm.
seen Michael Keaton's Batman, he's Jack Napier. In
Right.
other versions, he doesn't have a name. I'm trying to think if he's called Jack. I don't. But so like, is did you find that frustrating that for so many of the episodes we did outside of, I guess, Penguin
Mhm.
and Harley, we don't, and I guess including the Joker, we didn't get origin stories. Like, what was your initial reaction to like the Joker's just a mobster who went crazy?
Um, it's a little off-putting, I suppose, but
Mhm,
like you're saying, it's sort of it's nothing we get often, and I mean, we get, like, Harley, we get Mr. Freeze, I suppose,
mhm,
um, but it's just kind of I don't know, I feel like I wasn't expecting it. Like, I
mhm.
wasn't, like, waiting for that, and yeah, it is just kind of a random it seemed like a random choice to make to do the whole, like, "Oh, draw a smile," and suddenly that's Joker's becomes Joker's origin story in, like, one frame.
This one
But,
guy I've been seeing smoking cigarettes outside of Mr. Beaumont's
right.
um, office. Oh, and another thing, because I know how much you and again, this is my whole brain is just going through all these different weird references, which was obviously you're a big fan of Heart of Ice, and then you
Yes.
covered Deep Freeze, which was the one with not Walt Disney.
Uh-huh.
I found Beaumont, I said Belmont, Carl Beaumont's
Mhm.
appearance to look shockingly similar to Deep Freeze Disney. Like the only
I'd
difference
have
is
to go
he
back and
doesn't
compare
have
them.
white hair
Okay.
like that. And I mean, I don't think it's the same voice actor. It's like there's only so many ways to design, I guess, well-to-do businessmen with thin pencil mustache. Like I don't know why. It's so funny because there are so many variety of character designs, particularly in this movie, that it looked really familiar to one
Mhm.
I had before. We uncensoredness with the violence we talked about, but one of the aspects that clearly for me seems to be carried over from the TV show and allowed to be more mature. We talked about Batman or Bruce's nocturnal activities that are implied with what's going on in the morning in terms of
Yeah.
Andrea's attire, but
Mhm.
I don't. It's one of the elements of the film that I wish was addressed longer, and the fact that it's like what 76 minutes, something like that,
Right around
that I
there.
wish they had the chance to explore is particularly one line that I wrote down when after Andrea has saved Bruce from being corralled by the cops. And I found it really interesting how both scenes in On Leather Wings and particularly Mask of the Phantasm when he's being trapped by the police, that we very rarely see those very old looking SWAT officers.
Yeah.
And they're both of those scenes are clearly from Batman Year One, which was Frank Miller's definitive origin story for a lot of people, the definitive origin story for Bruce. And
Uh-huh.
the there's a lot of Year One in Mask of the Phantasm, but I would say like what they choose to adapt fits really well in, and what they choose to not goes really well with it. Like there's certainly mature elements with Catwoman they wouldn't have been able to do. She's like a streetwalker, and it's a whole thing. But
Okay.
the the level of deception that Andrea in already has with Bruce, I think makes that relationship even more tragic on the rewatch. Like again, I've seen this movie countless times, but it was one of the lines she says after no shirt jacked Bruce Wayne wakes up. Again, why would you sleep with a shirt?
Of
His
course.
bottom gets cold, but his top gets hot. I don't know. Um, which is like they're reuniting and Bruce clearly wants to make this work. And off of
Right.
the back of what is, and it's going back to the there will be a cycle in here. I apologize. The Kevin Conroy tribute that's on the 4K, which was they specifically do talk about some of the recording sessions for Mask of the Phantasm, and they go into the scene where it is in the pro. There are so many great performances in his 30 years as the character, but the one where he talks to his parents' grave about being happy and
Oh
no
my
plan.
god.
It's such a phenomenal piece of voice acting that is only added to an I was this time I've heard the dialogue countless times and it hits me every single time, but like the subtlety in both characters, like you can over animate in a character's face a lot. Ironically,
Yeah.
Harley and Ivy, which has the Joker getting kicked in the groin, get him from, has way too much face acting. But
Uh-huh.
Andrea Romano, the voice director, talks about like when they got that performance out of Kevin, that she like went to hug him and thanked him for like letting us in on that, because the clearly what this guy was pulling from to do these performances. And again, I should have looked up what it was called, but the comic um that Kevin did where he talks about what he did, what was it, Finding Batman by
Mm.
Kevin Conroy, and like all his relationships with his family and the reactions that the industry had to him being a gay actor in the 80s. It's just it adds all these layers you don't expect to be part of what led to your and I would say most of pop culture's definitive version of the character. But
Mhm.
Andrea already obviously we know, we've seen the movie, spoilers,
Mhm.
that she is the Phantasm through and through, and she's on a murder spree, right? She's got a hit list that she's
Oh,
going
does
through.
she ever?
And when they reunite post the year one scene, Bruce clearly wants to make this work. And it's so heartbreaking that he is reaching out again for that thing that would have prevented him from being Batman. Say what you will about that, but love is a crazy thing. And he wants it to work. And Andrea says, and I wrote it down, Daddy doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And
I
that
know.
line is so tragic because she's lying to herself.
Oh, yeah.
Like
But
everything Andrea.
she's also,
Go
I
ahead.
think, having to find that strength within herself, right? Like she's like having to convince herself that like, well, this is what I have to do. She came with the mission and she's doing it.
And it's just like the level of that lie that
Mhm.
she is like it is just not there's not like it's a lie to herself, and she's clearly lying to Bruce because the only way she was able to save him from get up on the Hydra's back, um Harvey Bullock and the team, was because she was there 5 seconds ago as the Phantasm. Like I'd
Oh,
love for
yeah.
somebody to make in betweens where she's like, ah, like
Stripping off the costume and running.
yeah,
Um,
running to get her very pink car
I
to
know.
save Bruce Wayne.
I think that's one of the more, I don't know, like, emotional things. The movie's very emotional, I think, as it is. Like, it's an absolute tearjerker. Um, but finding, how do I say this? It's been a very long day. Um, finding those moments that you know that she knows something that he doesn't.
Mhm,
You know, Andrea's like keeping something from Bruce slash Batman. She's also like doing him the favor of not like telling everybody that he's Batman, which just everyone just, Alfred and Bruce are just like, yeah, cool, whatever, it's fine.
mhm.
Um, but it's so
Which is a
interesting.
movie thing, which I love. Like there are certain elements from the Keaton films that did have a result in the origin of this universe, and
Mm.
it is every single Batman movie. The love interest she just knows. Like it's just like let's just fill the universe. Like there are more people that Bruce has probably been with that don't know, but everyone we get to see, they're always in on the secret.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's amazing. And it's amazing to see this sort of like dichotomy and this contrast between the two of like Batman, ultimate ninja detective that can, will do no wrong and was just trying to like clean up the streets. And Andrea, who's just like, well, these are the problems and I'm going to fix them. And, the whole opposite attract thing, like I think they'd be a great couple, and rewatching this movie again, I was just like, "I just want them to work out." I just, like, just do a thing, like, get together, you guys can make it work, you can be a crime fighting duo, who cares? Like, make it happen, and unfortunately,
Just
we don't
don't
get
kill
that.
people, maybe, and things
Maybe
would
just
work
don't
out.
kill people, you know,
Well, and
they'll
they're ultimately, and I think what sets this apart from even the Batman films of this decade with Returns, Forever, and Robin was like ultimately the resolution is Batman will be, for the film's benefit, continue to be this lone vigilante that sometimes has a college dick teaming up with him, and it would have, I think it would have hurt the film. As somebody who's obsessed with continuity because of the universe like this, it would have been so great for it to be acknowledged in the universe of the show. That obviously,
Mhm,
I think they said they were at the back end of the 65 when they were producing them,
mhm.
or when they started working on the film. But this doesn't have a happy ending. Like, there is more of a happy ending in Michael Keaton's Batman movie than this
That's true.
does, right? Like the Joker, he missing. That's a common thing that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And Andrea's gotten away with Bert and Ernie, which is my favorite thing to ever learn about this movie. The
Oh
man
my
on the
god, I
boat,
know.
his name. I hope it's like spelt Burton like the brand though. I don't know if it is. It doesn't say on
Maybe.
Wikipedia,
I bet
so
you
I
can
don't
find the
know.
answer somewhere.
Somewhere, I'm sure. But
But,
like, go ahead.
oh, it's not like, just to go back, you said it's not a happy ending, and, like, that's true, but, like, for me as a fan of just, like, film and TV, it's like it's such a beautiful artistic ending, isn't it? Like, we know that Batman is just gonna forever be Batman until he can Batman no more. He's just
I
so
want that
driven to
on a
do that.
t-shirt. I'm gonna Batman until I can't Batman no more.
Yeah, run with that. Put it on a
Yeah.
shirt. Um, and it's we don't really I think that's the saddest part for me is that we don't really know what goes on with Andrea after this. But it's like, would this movie have been as good if you had that happy ending? If they're like, "Oh, Batman, I love you forever. We're gonna like I'm gonna move into the Wayne Manor." The end. Like, it just kind of it feels a little bit false in a way because almost like Bruce needs that strife to continue to Batman.
Well, and being a fan of the comics, and in my opinion, what has allowed this character to be, we're getting close to, I think we're at 86 years. No, I should be able to math. 84. We're at 84 because it's 1939. And the most pivotal stories in the character's history, whether that be film, TV, comics, uh, I guess children's books, is the most definitive versions are always out of failure, right?
Hmm.
Like if you go and you watch the first Christian Bale film, right? Like Liam Neeson's Ducard, like whatever. He's Ra's al Ghul. Pick however you want to say it.
Which one?
Like which one? I don't know. I don't even think I know which one I go with. When I'm watching those, it's Raish. When it's the other ones, it's
Right.
Ra's al Ghul. And
Yeah.
James and his freaking David Warner detective, like that is, oh, it's so good. But like the failure to act, right? And all, even with the ambiguity with the conclusion of the film, like the Bruce ends in failure, but he never lets the failure define anything he does. That's what makes Bruce Wayne, depending on who you
Hmm.
ask, the greatest superhero. Is he is a character born of failure.
Yeah.
Like depending on the version, Thomas Wayne did not. I mean, if you want to go with classic archetypes of mom and father families, obviously it's 2023. Martha easily could have been the person to save them, but in the 1930s, Like,
Yeah.
Thomas did not protect the family. Ultimately, him and Martha died. Spoilers, I guess, for Detective 27. Um, but what happened with that failure? Born a Bruce Wayne who was super angry. Alfred failed Bruce Wayne, right? He's not like he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe don't become a ninja detective scientist man who's gonna go fight crime as a giant flying rodent, right? Like, you, depending on, obviously that's never addressed in any of the animated versions, but it's been a part of the story. Depending
Well, now
on,
here's that question too, though. Like going back, sticking with DCAU Batman, like
Mhm.
Alfred was that, like he was his own sort of James Bond, if you will. So maybe that he
yeah,
had that same kind of drive, and maybe it wasn't necessarily like a failing Bruce in that situation, more of a like, go get him, Tiger. I got your back.
that's, yes, that's true. He was Lion the Witch and wardrobing all over with Red Claw or whatever. God, that episode's so bad. That was the worst part. And I think, and I am certainly one who can attest to this, that all of BTAS, including the movie, is truncated in my brain as like one thing. And
Hmm.
then rewatching it in that order, watching those ACOM episodes and Studio Junios and Blue Pencils, and it was like, oh no, this isn't as
Oh
good as I
yes.
remember. But I
I
mean,
know. It's funny too, and that's I think one of the things that James got out of the rewatch as well. Because if you listen to the jump on the Bat-Wagon, you'll find that so many of these things James had said, like, oh, I haven't actually watched this one, or I don't watch this one often, maybe only seen it a couple times or whatever. And I think something that we discussed, and I can't remember, it was probably on the podcast, maybe outside of the podcast too. These things blend together. That people tend to paint a rosy picture of things, and like I'm I, I'm guilty of that as well. At this point in time, I'm like, man, I miss Batman. Superman's cool, but like I'm really missing Batman. But a lot of those episodes are garbage in either the storytelling or the art. And I think a lot of DC AU fans don't want to admit that. But again, nostalgia, like it makes sense. But yeah, they are not all zingers.
so I wanted to bring this up because there will never be an opportunity for me to, I mean, I shouldn't say never. Um but I wanted to tell you what I think the best episode of BTAS is.
Oh my god, yeah, do tell. Do you have a top
Okay.
10 of your own?
So a top 10's been really difficult for me, and so
Uh-huh.
because I was watching a bunch of it, and honestly it was more so what was, I mean, I can probably do it really quickly off the top of my head. Um, I'm trying to look at them. Where's the World's Finest is the one of my favorite places to see all this stuff put together really quickly. Let's
Hmm.
see. So my favorite episode after watching it, no, I want to go to episode guide. Oh, that's worse. Um, my favorite episode that I think does everything the show did the best is Robin's Reckoning Part 1.
Okay. Yeah. I
I
mean, that's
think,
let me pull up my list really quickly here too.
all right, all right, you're getting to something on the fly here, film realisters. I'm gonna try to Google Doc this really quickly. Where is
This is
Docs?
this is the chaos you live in. It's ADHD and ADHD.
Oh man, I was a kid of the Ritalin in the '90s. It was not fun. All right,
Oh my god, no. No, I was there too. And the story I always tell is like, for me, I was on Ritalin and they're like, yeah, it's going to help you focus. And like, yeah, it helps you focus, not necessarily on the whiteboard, but just whatever is most interesting to you. And I got in trouble so often because I was looking at a tree out of a window.
what
And
did I
it's
say?
like,
Robins.
Robin's Reckoning Part 1?
Robins. Yeah, I found, so the, like, obviously the way they handled the Grayson's death was
Yeah, that
incredible,
was
and that's
so heavy.
one of the examples of censors being like, well, no, you can't show two people impacting on the ground. And
Yeah.
but managing, again, it's something that I really loved, that was an element of the most recent Batman film, where like Robert Pattinson's Batman seeing himself in the mayor's son,
Hmm.
and like that being something that carries through over. And also I like getting to see OG Batman suit, and which you very rarely see. Okay, so number 1 is Robin's Reckoning.
Yeah, that's
Oh
my number
god.
3. But
All
like
right,
that top
let's,
3 for me is like neck and neck.
You guys really didn't like Demon's Quest, and that really bummed me out. You know why? And I know this is the case. So TMS, who did
Uh-huh.
those episodes, becomes so important. Like, that's all I can say.
Okay.
Um, It's Heart of Ice would be number 2. It's so
That
good.
that is my
It's
number 1.
I know it never moved for you. There's
Oh,
something
no.
and what?
No, I mean, it's
Uh,
true, like, I just,
yeah.
like, it was such a hard one for me to dethrone, and again, because of the production on it wasn't necessarily the best, but just, like, the storytelling and the acting and everything, and, like, if I could put Phantasm on the episode list, it would absolutely
Yeah,
be my number 1.
it wouldn't
That's
be
the only thing
fair.
that could
That's
have
the that's
dethroned that.
it's not fair.
No.
Okay. All right. So I have 2. I need
Okay.
so one of the things that I found really interesting, and this can wrap with talking about Mask of the Phantasm, is as weird as it is, On Leather Wings is such a great example of like what this show kind of is, which is while it is this weird 40s modern thing at the same time, like there's also a
Uh-huh.
freaking man bat flying around, and like it's the most uncensored of any of the animated episodes. Like it's the
Huh.
only time in the show he actually bleeds. And it's and
Really?
similar, well, yeah, because he gets beat up when they land. Like when he's
Yeah.
blind, like again, I
I
love
didn't
how
remember there
they're
being blood on it. I mean, it's obviously it's been
yeah,
years for me and I only saw it once and now I just with the canon of the podcast, I have to hate it.
that's
So
fair,
I
completely fair.
haven't like
Yeah. I would
brought
say
myself
On
to
Leather
rewatch
Wings.
it.
Well, it's
Okay.
hilarious because he covers Langstrom's eyes and then they crash into a wall, which if he's a bat, he would have echolocation, but that's neither here nor there. Um, let's see. What I'm trying to think of.
Didn't think of that.
I thought about this. I was like, I should make my own. And I didn't. Um Beware Grey Ghost is really good. It's probably on there
Beware the
somewhere.
Grey Ghost is excellent.
It's very good. I
You haven't done Feet of Clay though. You haven't mentioned Feet of Clay. Are you not
I
a Feet
keep
of Clay
looking at
fan?
it and it's like those are really good. And also one really funny thing for me, and like I'm somebody who's very good with this typically, but I had
Uh-huh.
never put together that Biff Tannen was um I wanted to say Danny Zuko, but that's the guy from Greece.
Yes.
Um Whoever the guy is who killed Robin's parents. Uh what's that guy's name?
Oh,
Billy
wrong guy.
Martin is actually somebody else. Who's actually Billy Martin? What's his Tony Zuko? I was close.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? And it's Biff Tannen. And now I can't unhear it because I love those movies. Oh god, what are they? Oh man, this is tough. There's like you know what I'm finding now? There's a
What?
lot there's a lot that are so like there's I would say there's a handful. I'm like, these are easily the best that the show has to offer.
Yeah.
And oh, I know what it is actually now that I'm saying it's almost got him for sure. That's 4.
Really?
I love that episode. Because it's funny. One of the things that I love about Mask of the Phantasm is that it's actually about Batman. Like so many of the films are he's never the actual main character, even though the movies are his name.
Yeah.
And like this is unequivocally about Bruce. And I would say even it's even more so about Batman. Like we talked about the relationship that he has with Andrea and that he
Mhm.
was contemplating giving up this whole thing he'd spent at that point probably 10 years of his life preparing to do, and now a
Right.
thing he's done. He's been Batman for 10 years and he's still considering that. Like it's about Batman. Even my favorite live action Batman films, it's very often not about him.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm trying to think. Two-Face Part 1 is really good.
I'm also amazed that you have all these just in your head like that.
In terms of what? The episodes?
Yeah, you're just like that title. Oh yeah, I totally got this one. Two-Face Part 1 is James's number 4.
Is that what it is? The freaking Harvey No is just it's so funny. Um
It's iconic. We can call it iconic now.
It is iconic. Yeah, it is iconic. I'm trying to think of the episode. One of the episodes that was so ruined to me by rewatching it was the second ninja episode, Day of the Samurai,
Day of
because I had that
Day of the
golden
Samurai?
book.
Night of the Samurai? What is it?
Day of the Samurai, Night of
What's
the
the day?
Ninja was the first one. Day
Ah,
of the
right, right,
Samurai is
right.
the second one, where they go to Japan.
That is on our bottom 10, well,
I know
12
it
list.
is, but I had the golden book, Brian, and I love the gold. I still have it. It's downstairs on my kid's bookshelf.
Oh my
It's still
god.
there. There's no good Riddler episodes, which really sucks.
I Oh my god, yeah, you're
Uh,
you're getting to the heart of it for me. I mean, Riddler's
you know what?
Reform.
Actually, is this the Dreams of Darkness? I loved.
Hmm.
That was a really good one. That's five. I threw a rock at him. That's a good one. Oh, I did that right. That's almost got him. I'd say, but I'm doing this on the fly. If I think of a better one, all right. I'm at seven now. So I have, for those listening and have been trying to keep track, from
Mhm.
one to the bottom, I have Robin's Reckoning, Heart of Ice, On Leather Wings, Almost Got Him, Dreams of Darkness, or something that Kevin thought it was something else. Dreamscape, I think, is what he thinks it was.
Yes, that's correct.
Beware the Gray Ghost is
Mhm.
six. Yeah, that's Two Face, part one. Clayface, part two. That animation with the different characters is so good.
Mm.
That's eight. I need two more.
I mean,
Should I
Bullet for
pick?
Bullock, come on. Joker's
You know what I
Favor,
hate about
Harvey's
that episode?
Holiday. What's
It's
that?
just like the HR guy just or internal affairs guy just sucks. Like he sucks so bad. Bullet for Bullock is a good one. You know which one I actually loved and I didn't think if somebody had asked me about it, I wouldn't have had an opinion on it because I remember probably even similar to James to the same regard was whoa, that font's not in the right color at all. Is that when the like I had watched the show on and off when it was airing on Global up here,
Mm.
but I had never seen the whole thing in order. And then when the DVDs came out, which I have over here, I actually it's a problem. I own three versions of this show. I have the individual volume DVDs. I then
Uh-huh.
have the complete series DVDs because they release a bonus disc and I need to know what's on the bonus disc. And then I have all the Blu-rays. Um,
You and
and
James are
so
basically the same person. You know that, right?
here's the difference though, and this is a key difference, and my wife can attest to this. He gets paid to do it now. I'm doing this for free on my own time. So watching them through, even the first, so I probably had watched through BTAS twice
Mm,
since the DVD. So that's like within 20 years. The
okay.
Man Who Killed Batman was incredible. Like you talk
Mm,
about the like Godfather elements and like the actual city crime that when done well in BTAS is awesome. And I
right.
really enjoyed that one. All right, so I need one more 10. Guess this is definitive, so I have to release this later as a list. Let's see. It's so people like Eternal Youth. It's fine. What's the one
People
with the two old gangsters? That
the
one's super funny.
the two
You
old
guys
get
hated
more
that one.
specific.
It's the one with the guy getting hit. Oh, it's never too late. The one with the guy getting hit by the train. I had a hard time
Oh
watching
my
that one.
god, yeah. That's also on our
Uh,
bottom 12 list.
The Forgotten, the music cue is stuck in my head. I will be able to hum that like duh, dun, dun, like the with the twanging of the banjo till
Uh-huh.
I die. Like that music score. Well done, Shirley Walker. Okay, I need one more. Oh, Brian. Um,
You got this. I have faith in
I
you.
do. I have a soft spot for a couple episodes, and it's like part of this is, and I didn't think this was going to happen, but I guess I'm going to reference the listener Dylan Pollock, where
Well, you have
the
to.
I have to, I guess. Like this is, I mean, if you've watched the multiverse of the Watchtower databases now, I guess technically I'm now a part of it because of you.
Yeah, you
Um,
are absolutely Dylan Pollock.
and it's so the part oneness and like the separation I do understand because it is like Robin's Reckoning, Two Face, and Feet of Clay. Those are all great examples of like parts of it are great, and then the other part and not so much is
Yeah.
the Demon Quest for me should have just been one episode, and man, I wish it was because it's like it's so clearly just James Bond, and
Uh-huh.
like it's those serials, right? Again, both of them fight with no shirts, and it's super racially ambiguous with whatever they're wherever they're supposed to go.
Right.
This is
10
really
is
tough for
hard.
me. Ten's hard. Dang it. You know what? You guys got to do this 1 week at a time.
That's true.
Okay, so I'm gonna I guess verbally, which would be worth words, kind of tell
Uh-huh.
you where I am right now.
Okay.
I really love the origin of Batgirl with Shadow of the Bat. I
Mhm.
like the pulpiness of it. Like that like it sounds like a criticism and it's not meant to be because like it's I feel so sad for my children that Saturday morning cartoons don't exist anymore.
Do they
But like they
not?
were
Is that, like, not a thing?
not well, think about it. Like, I don't know. Netflix, all the streaming services release things whenever they want now, right? Like,
That's true.
I'm watching today Castlevania Nocturne, which is the spin off series of Castlevania. That came out, well, it's midnight now, my time. It came out yesterday. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's Thursday. I mean, because it's Thursday. Um, that's a Watchtower database reference if you know what that is. Okay, so Shadow of the Bat being that like the origin story of Batgirl, I really liked this version where it came out of it's I think it's similar to how they introduced Harvey Dent. Like he's in a couple episodes and then you get Two-Face. If he just shows up as Two-Face, that first episode doesn't work. And
Yeah.
we got to meet Barbara. I mean, Heart of Steel, yes, with Hardak and all of the Miyazaki influences they definitely didn't steal. Um, it's steal from the best, that's what I say. And so getting that origin particular again, I think this is a music thing for me too. Like Batgirl's triumphant like trumpet theme, particularly
Uh-huh.
when she takes down Gil Mason, like I love that. And like it came out of her just wanting to be Batman. It's
So I'm
I
having
love
a
that
dog
episode.
barking fiasco.
That's all right, it's fine. Let's what do we have here? Yeah,
Oh my god.
there. Yeah, another Bond episode is like Zatanna, but it's just fine. I'm trying to think. Is there? I mean, Bullet for Bullock. Wait, am I? I'm trying to figure. Am I past? No, I don't want to get into the new adventures. Um. Oh,
I
I
mean,
don't know. Is there a
I would
Harley episode that I really like?
Harley's Holiday? That's on my
No, I'm.
list.
Is it?
Yeah.
Which one's that one?
Oh,
Oh, that's the
that's the
one when
one
she's
where
like, "I was trying to be good," and then she's on the roller skates.
yes. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you
And the
to,
world's conspiring.
yeah, World's Finest because they have all of the, title cards in HD form on there, and I screen grab those all as wallpapers on my computer, so
Oh
I
my
now see
god,
those
that's
every day.
genius.
Yeah, it's awesome. You just cycle through these. Bullet for Bullock is really good. I don't have the love of Harvey Bullock that you do, so I don't
I
know if I
do have a weird fascination with Harvey Bullock.
oh god, I don't see what I wanna do, but I will follow Jump on the Bat-Wagon's rules is if I could, I would put Demon's Quest United as one episode.
I mean, this, to be fair, this is your list. Like,
I know it's my list, but I'll use a sports metaphor. I'll play ball. I can't juggle, but I can throw one ball. Uh, Brian is a juggler, by the way. If you're listening to this and you haven't listened to the other things, this could be a really weird episode for you. But you know what? Jump in 2 feet deep end. It's fine. I don't. Perchance to Dream, honest,
mm,
in my opinion, might be one of the most overrated episodes of BTAS.
really? Why do you say that?
Well, okay, so first off, Mad Hatter sucks. He's not a
Uh-huh.
good villain. Like, he's funny to look at, but I think the whole idea of it, it's like this is meant to be a criticism. It's too cartoony. Like, Bruce being happy is such a great idea. Like, one thing I love to think about is like, what was the pitch for this? Like, yeah, they did pitch meetings as a funny YouTube show on Screen Rant and whatever.
Mm.
But it's like Bruce has a dream of what would he be like without Batman. Andrea's obviously not there because When did this come out? 1992. So a year before. And it's like that stuff's all really compelling. And then it's like, oh, it's Mad Hatter. Like it's just, I don't, the conclusion really hurts that episode for me. I don't think
Yeah.
there's enough of Bruce being happy to justify like his tragedy at the end. There's a famous Superman comic that's very similar to that, ironically written by Alan Moore, who hates adaptations of everything he's ever made. I don't know if you knew that.
Didn't know that.
Called for the Man Who Has Everything. It's a great comic. And so Dream or Perchance to Dream is kind of like that. Like any of the episodes that dive into the psychology, like this is when, similar to, I know something you said, which was praise for Mask of the Phantasm on your first viewing, which was it was allowed to be more mature and not uncensored, but they didn't have to be TV censored, right? There were no broadcast stanzas or
Right.
practices. You're making this PG for kids. And like, thankfully, PG used to mean something. When you could kick out the Joker's teeth and you could say one curse word, but that's all changed now.
I
Did
know.
I?
I loved that little detail as well of like kicking out the
Oh,
Joker's
man.
tooth and then it being out for the rest of the movie.
It's such a great, yeah. And it'd be really funny if like one was white for the remainder of the show. It's like, I know
Right.
why. I know why. Oh man.
You
You
can
know
do
what?
it.
I'm saying Shadow of the Bat part 1.
Okay.
There. All right. So starting from I did not expect this to be in today's episode, but here we are. So, starting from do you guys go from the bottom to the top? I don't remember. It's been a while since
We
there's
go
been a jump on the Bat-Wagon episode.
tomorrow. Well, today for you.
Perfect. Today for
Um
me. Well, let's see. Is it loaded on my No, it's cuz it's like 1 p.m. or whatever, isn't it? I don't know.
it'll come out for you what, noon, I think.
Yeah, I think at
Maybe it's
noonish or
1? I
I don't know.
I don't know.
Brian is on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. Somebody listening, actually, you know what? Dan, you're in the middle. Listener Dan, I know where you live, and I know your Central Standard Time, I think. I don't know.
Dan. How you
Dan.
doing, Dan?
Dan is a stellar human being.
Oh yeah?
And Jermaine, I'm sorry. I know this. I had a listener who wanted me to do my favorite sci-fi movies of the 2000s, but I
Oh,
moved that to next week because I will be reviewing The Creator. So I thought it fit more with that episode. So it'll be on
fair
that one.
deal.
That was freaking hard, but it's favorites. So it's not best, it's my favorites. And I didn't number them because I'm
Ooh.
going to be an antagonist like that. You can guess the numbers, Jermaine. You can guess what the numbers are. Um,
Open to interpretation.
and for the record, Star Wars is not science fiction, it's science fantasy. So there are no Star Wars films on my list. Okay.
Oh,
It's not,
that's
it's fantasy.
haven't people made the argument of like the oh god. What's the
Midichlorians?
midichlorians? Is that what it is? Is
Yeah.
that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, the
That makes
blood
it
stuff that makes you a Jedi.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Isn't is
George has
that
said
not
it's fantasy. Though, if you
okay.
remove the fact that it's in space, it's all of Joseph Campbell's archetypes for a fantasy story, right? Old wit, like it's all there. I don't have time.
That's fair.
I don't want to keep up your whole evening because I've already taken up so much of it. Okay,
It's
so
all good. It's all good. No worries.
starting from the bottom.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a TikTok that I'm gonna make later. Um, my top 10 Batman the Animated Series episodes.
Yes.
So starting from the bottom, number 10, Shadow. I put Shadows. There's only one. Shadow of the Bat, Part 1. Number 9, The Man Who Killed Batman. Number 8, I forgot the Y, so I'm going to say it this way: Clawface, Part 2. Now, number 7, Two-Face, Part 1. Number 6, Beware the Gray Ghost. Number
Yes.
5, Dreams of Darkness or Dreamscape. Number 4, Almost Got Him. Number 3, On Leather Wings. Number 2, Heart of Ice. And number 1, Robin's Reckoning Part 1. I should label
Brilliant.
this so I don't forget where it is. So there you go. It's been done.
It's official.
It's official. Yeah, I'll post that somewhere later. Didn't expect to make that today, but whatever.
This is the
I
ADD
don't
podcast. We're just
This
going
is
for
the 80. It's, you know what? It is a superpower with a lot of disadvantages at the same time.
Yeah, I feel
Perfect.
that.
I don't think there's anything else to say about Mask of the Phantasm other
No,
than you should watch it. If you haven't, I think you are missing out on the best version of this version of Batman, which is
I would
it's
say
the
the best version of most versions of Batman. Like, I think a lot of people outside of the kind of like Batman fandom might kind of like look down upon, oh, it's a cartoon, it's not that serious. Like this movie is so good. So
mm,
so good. And anybody, like, the first time I watched it, it was with like all my housemates. We watched it around Christmas, and it was kind of this like, all right, grab your tea and hot cocoa. We're gonna watch a movie. And everybody was enthralled. And it's just like, I think everybody should give this movie a chance.
I so for us Canadians, it's on Crave. I had to Google it because I wasn't sure, but I knowing the fact that I owned it didn't affect me whatsoever. Um, so there you go. So yeah, I would if you are somebody who wants to have the most pristine version, go ahead and pick up the 4K. I don't think you're gonna be. The cover's really cool. I quite like it. Oh, there's my ring light picking it up. It's very similar to the Harley and never mind. It might be a spoiler. I don't know actually. Well, do you know about that Uh, I don't know. I'm just gonna move on to another thing. Uh, I Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. I
Man, so happy to be here. Thank you for giving me an excuse to rewatch Mask of the Phantasm.
well,
I'd wanted to and just hadn't made the time. I don't know why.
there you go. So I made you do something you were planning on doing already. So I'll take 36% of the credit. I don't
Oh man, take
really
100% of the credit,
know.
because
Okay, I
also
will.
like ADD being what it is, like just because I want to do something doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to go out of my way and do it.
That's true. All right. As I mentioned already, next week's episode will be a review of The Creator, which I'm quite looking forward to. And Jermaine, it will include my 5 favorite science fiction films from the 2000s onward. So you can look forward to that. Leave a review on whatever podcast platform you are. If you're listening on Spotify, I leave a question embedded into every episode. So look for that there if you want to have a little more interaction with the podcast. Of course, if you want to reach out to the show, you can on Twitter, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Threads. I'm on Hive. I'm on Vero. Actually, that's my own, but it doesn't matter. You can reach the podcast in all those places. There's an email, as well as you can tweet at me, Kyle_Naranya. Brian, of course, you can hear on Jump on the Bat-Wagon, which is on all the podcast platforms. Brian is currently being shown Superman, the animated series, and you're up to actually I know this. It's oh, no, I know the episode because I actually speaking of
Go
home
on.
video, I I was watching the episode on my Blu-ray and it was skipping.
What?
And
No.
I yes, so this is I mean I would not be somebody who would immediately throw shade at somebody because what would be the point? But I'm going to shout praise to Warner Brothers Home Media customer support. I sent an email saying my disc 1 of Superman the animated series is skipping on The Way of the Flesh. Is that what the episode's called?
I think so.
Let me look this
The
up.
way of
The
all
Way of
flesh.
All Flesh. The Way of All Flesh. It was skipping and I tried it on multiple Blu-ray players. It's the first time I've used the home video. I've made a point of doing that for all of this Jump on the Batwagon stuff. I'm like, I own it physically. I'm going to watch it physically. It's the best version.
That's excellent.
And so not only did they send me a disc 1 replacement, they sent me the entire series. So shout out to Warner Brothers.
Bravo.
Yeah, I commend you for that customer support because they easily could have said you had a 30-day warranty, but so now I have one disc that works for how many episodes are on that disc? I should look that up. I think there's like 8. However many episodes are on the disc, 3, 6, yeah, 8. So one episode doesn't work, but the other 7 do, and then I haven't gone through, so who knows? Maybe I'll have issues. I fingers crossed I don't have issues with the other ones. But yes, you can see Brian there. Brian also takes photos of stuff professionally, also known as a photographer. I don't know why I phrased it like that. So
I loved it.
uh, so Brian's photography things and where he's located specifically are connected to, I know, to your Instagram. So if you're looking for him there, you can find him there.
Yeah, I'm pretty
This
easy
has
to find on
been
Instagram.
a podcast about Batman brought to you by two people with ADHD. That's
Woohoo!
all. We'll see you
Chaos!
next week.